He emerged in intelligence files like a ghost, faceless, nameless, a shadow cast across continents. Arms traffickers usually left trails, intercepted shipments, failed deals, whispered warnings. But this figure operated with a precision that defied conventional surveillance, slipping through borders, corrupting officials, and orchestrating a silent flood of weapons into conflict zones already close to collapse. His presence was felt through rising death tolls, sudden shifts in militia power, and wars that grew bloodier without clear origin. To most of the world, the violence seemed spontaneous, the result of old rivalries igniting again. But somewhere deep inside Langley, analysts noticed the unmistakable signature of deliberate design. A global arms kingpin was moving behind the curtain, and his network was expanding toward something far more dangerous than profit. The intelligence environment was at full tempo the morning the CIA first caught a sliver of evidence pointing toward this ghostly figure. The agency was monitoring routine satellite sweeps over the Sahel when analysts detected an unregistered convoy moving across the desert with unusual coordination. The data alone was not alarming, it was the triangulation that followed. Cyber triggers flagged encrypted messages routed through offshore servers, and a surveillance drone captured heat signatures, revealing cargo far heavier than humanitarian supplies. An anomaly appeared. A shipping manifest from a Black Sea port showing industrial farm equipment destined for a landlocked region known to have no agricultural investment in decades. The CIA cross-referenced the signatures, and the alignment was too precise to ignore. Something was being moved quietly, at scale, through a network too complex to be local. The first thread of the Kingpin's operation had been exposed. The discovery phase unfolded with a pattern that seemed too orchestrated to be coincidence. Signals intelligence captured coded bursts of communication that repeated across multiple continents, always at irregular intervals, but sharing the same encryption architecture. Satellite intel identified cargo planes flying at odd hours with ghost transponders, devices that mimicked legitimate flight IDs, but masked off-grid destinations. Cyber analysts uncovered financial microtransactions that flowed through currencies used primarily in black market procurement. The early signs of danger were unmistakable. Someone with immense resources was moving high-caliber weaponry across fragile regions, upgrading militant groups with precision-engineered firearms and advanced battlefield systems. Intelligence officers began whispering about a new axis of instability, a puppeteer feeding conflicts like fuel to embers. As clues grew stronger, Langley authorized the formation of a joint task force, placed in a secure wing sealed from routine operations. The team consisted of counterarms, specialists, satellite analysts, forensic financial experts, and operators with deep experience dismantling covert networks. Inside the dimly lit chamber, digital projections illuminated the scope of what they were dealing with. The Kingpin's name remained unknown, his locations shifting constantly. His network built on layers of intermediaries who communicated through dead drops and coded exchanges. Hidden movements intensified across regions where his influence remained strongest. Secret meetings took place at border towns where security forces were either bribed or intimidated into silence. Covert behaviors emerged. Naval shipments changing course, mid-ocean. Military-grade explosives appearing in markets that previously only trafficked small arms, and unknown intermediaries purchasing decommissioned weaponry with no official end users. It was clear that the Kingpin was orchestrating something monumental. Confirmation came when a deep-cover agent embedded in a European port authority intercepted a container marked as industrial lubricants. The internal documentation was falsified, but the weight discrepancy triggered suspicion. When the container was discreetly scanned, what emerged was chilling. Crates of next-generation rifles, anti-armor systems, and encrypted battlefield communication units. A parallel breakthrough occurred when a satellite equipped with deep-spectrum imaging identified a remote airstrip being used as a transit hub. The airstrip did not appear on any maps, yet aircraft cycling through it carried payloads too heavy for civilian transport. Captured communications revealed references to a figure known only by a codename whispered in fear among traffickers. The Kingpin was not merely an arms dealer, he was building an underground alliance of militias, criminal syndicates, and rogue states, preparing for a coordinated escalation that could destabilize entire continents in synchronized chaos. The CIA response was immediate but subtle. Deploying overt force risked exposing the operation and triggering retaliatory violence across multiple regions. Instead, covert countermeasures were executed with surgical precision. Cyber infiltration teams inserted silent code into the financial systems used by the Kingpin's intermediaries, rerouting payments to controlled accounts to identify the full chain of operators. Surveillance drones designed for clandestine observation-tracked vehicles moving through unmarked desert roads. Sabotage teams disrupted supply routes by tampering with fuel depots used by the Kingpin's transport network. Intelligence officers orchestrated deception operations that fed false information to his lieutenants, causing shipping routes to overlap and exposing patterns that had previously been flawless. The urgency grew as each new discovery suggested the Kingpin was preparing for a massive weapons transfer, one involving technology advanced enough to shift regional power balances overnight. The climax unfolded when the CIA uncovered the full truth behind the Kingpin's operation. A hacked server in an anonymous data center revealed encrypted logs showing the planned distribution of weapons to 5 conflict zones simultaneously. But this was not routine trafficking. It was phase 1 of a coordinated destabilization strategy. Among the inventory were portable anti-air systems, drone arsenals, prototype weapons originating from state-level research labs, funneled through corrupt scientists and shell companies. The most shocking discovery emerged from satellite footage showing a convoy transporting a device wrapped in thermal dampening material, escorted by armed vehicles. Analysts recognized the container shape. It was the casing typically used for a tactical missile guidance system. If delivered, it could allow a rogue militia to target military bases or civilian infrastructure with unprecedented accuracy. The Kingpin was on the verge of granting non-state actors strategic strike capabilities. With global consequences looming, the CIA launched its most intricate covert strike. Intelligence operatives triggered the shutdown of the Kingpin's communication architecture through a cyber assault that scrambled encrypted channels, slating his network nodes. Simultaneously, a clandestine logistics team orchestrated a blockade by manipulating shipping routes, diverting the convoy into a remote region where satellite coverage and ground operatives had been positioned for weeks. A covert extraction unit, masked under the guise of a local security force, intercepted the transport. Through carefully timed sabotage, they neutralized the vehicle engines without igniting the explosive cargo. While the operatives secured the convoy, forensic analysts infiltrated the Kingpin's private servers and extracted the final piece of intelligence needed to dismantle his empire: his location. Hidden in a fortified estate masked by diplomatic protections, he had believed himself untouchable. The operation to neutralize him required no public spectacle. A silent drone, equipped with a low-yield precision strike mechanism, hovered above the estate under a false transponder identity. With the press of a signal from Langley, the device released a micro-munition guided through an open skylight. The blast was contained to a single room. No alarms, no collapse, no civilian casualties. When the estate guards finally breached the smoke-filled chamber, the man whose name the world never knew had already been erased. His network, severed from its core, collapsed within days. Militia leaders turned on each other, shipments disappeared into intercepted routes, and corrupt officials scrambled to cover their tracks. The global arms flow slowed, then shuttered, then stopped entirely. In the resolution, the world continued forward, unaware that the stability of entire regions had been preserved by actions no one would ever read about. The governments involved issued no statements, and no agency claimed responsibility. The intercepted weapons were dismantled, melted into raw material, their origins classified and buried in encrypted archives. Analysts returned to their stations, operators faded into new identities, and the task force dissolved back into the shadows. There were no public victories, no medals, only the quiet knowledge that a catastrophe had been prevented before it was ever understood. In the final reflection, the operation stood as a testament to the invisible battles fought in silence. Intelligence work thrived on secrets, on catching the faint echoes of threats before they surged into open chaos. Heroes in this world wore no uniforms and sought no recognition. Their triumphs were measured in the disasters that never occurred, the wars that never began, the lives preserved without their knowledge. Somewhere in the vast network of global surveillance, new anomalies continued to flicker, waiting for eyes trained to see the patterns hidden in the noise. The balance of the world rested not on the loud declarations of nations, but on the quiet vigilance of those who navigated the darkness. Forever scanning for the next shadow rising beyond the visible horizon,